Gaha and all those other greetings of adventures, I'm Jake Spins, welcoming you guys back to my gaming and unboxing channel, where tonight I want to talk about one of the N64's biggest classics that I have yet to play. To be honest though, I do actually really love this game and I want to play it very soon, and B, I haven't played a lot of the N64's library, even some really big ones. I haven't finished or played that much of Paper Mario, Diddy Kong Racer, I haven't even owned GoldenEye. There are so many different N64 games that I can list, but let's be honest, it's pretty much the entire library. So, that leaves the question, what game and what character or characters are we going to be talking about today? Well, I'm glad you asked, because we're going to be talking about Banjo and Kazooie! Because of my intro, you might assume that I know absolutely nothing outside of Smash Brothers about Banjo and Kazooie. However, you would be wrong, because I've actually seen quite a few playthroughs, including Masay's playthrough and now the Runaway Guy's playthrough. That being said though, the game looks super fun. So if you do only know Banjo-Kazooie from Smash Brothers, you might be asking yourself, what's the big deal about this game? Well, around the time when 3D platforms were very, very new, coming off of the cusp of Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie came and it was a big shining light of quality. Granted, it did go through a lot of rough patches and quite a few iterations, including dinosaurs and human characters with a villain of a pirate, and it somehow fled into a bird and a bear collecting puzzle pieces to try to save Banjo's sister because she was kidnapped by an ugly witch who wants to be beautiful. And if you lose or you quit out of the game, she succeeds and becomes attractive. It's a wild concept, but it's one of those things, because it's video games and because it was old and because it's beloved, we don't actually really question it, even though if it came out today, we would probably have a few questions about how we got to that point, but it's still really cool. Now, what makes Banjo-Kazooie a really interesting thing as well is how it does the collectathon genre and how it presents itself. Much like Mario 64, you do have your staple collectibles. Instead of coins, you have notes, having 100 throughout the entire world. Instead of stars, you have jiggies. But you do have a few extra things. Every single world has 10 jiggies, and you also have extra collectibles like the Jinjos. Collecting 5 Jinjos ends up giving you a Jiggy, and collecting 100 notes, I believe maybe gets you a Jiggy, but I could be wrong on that, I'm not 100% sure. But you do need the notes to actually end up unlocking further areas so that you can move on. However, if you do end up dying, you lose all the notes that you have progressed with, which can become a big issue if you're newer to the game. This isn't for all the versions, however the original version is like this, and I believe this does translate to the NSO version as well, so if you are interested in trying this game out, keep that in mind. Much like how stars end up helping you progress to other levels, Jiggies also help you progress. However, it's in a very different way, because you have to go around the world and find these portraits where you put the Jiggies in and you finish the picture to unlock the door to that world. It's such a cool and interesting idea, because instead of just unlocking a door and jumping through a painting, which in and of itself is really cool, it does add more exploration to it. Furthermore, instead of just having the toads that you talk to and a few secret collectibles that you can get, you have these challenge switches where you have to end up hitting them. They end up having short missions for you to do to get Jiggies in the overworld. It's such a cool detail, and some of these you actually can't do right away because you do need power-ups throughout the levels. There's also another interesting thing that's very different. From their base moveset, Banjo has an attack, and you also have a second character being Kazooie. With Kazooie, you're able to do flutter jumps to be able to get a little bit more height and to avoid fall damage, and you're also able to talk to a character named Bottles. In a majority of the worlds, you can interact with Bottles to be able to get a new move. This can range from a ground pound that help you avoid getting fall damage, or being able to use Kazooie to spit or poop out eggs to end up getting specific puzzles done. A lot of these moves are with Kazooie, however there are certain things with Banjo where you're able to roll, and where you do get some other things. But it's mostly just Banjo moving around and Kazooie assisting. Kazooie is a very helpful partner, and you're never really going to use Banjo's attack because you're going to use Kazooie's attack more, which is the rat-a-tat-rap, which is just more helpful. And once you eventually get the Talon Trot, you're pretty much always going to be traveling with the Talon Trot. So with all of that being said, I think it's time to finally unbox the bear and the bird. Alright, it should also be noted that these guys do have a few games, a sequel on the 64. Banjo himself showed up in Diddy Kong Racing as well. I don't think Kazooie did though, but I'm pretty sure this was probably before Kazooie. And you do also have some GBA games and a Xbox game that a lot of people don't talk about, but I haven't played it. I just know a lot of people are angry about it because it's not really Banjo-esque. Anyway though, going to the Plush, I think we should definitely look at Kazooie first. So one thing that I really like is the fact that they had her tag be an egg. That's a really cool detail that they didn't necessarily have to go through, but one that I've noticed a lot of limited run Plush end up doing, just like with the Shantae and the Roddy Top Plush. So Kazooie herself has a really interesting type of plush, being fairly stiff and fairly small, though there is a specific reason for this that we'll get into in a second. It does seem that her wings and her legs also have movable wires to be able to actually pose her, which is pretty cool that they do have this. I don't really have many or any posable plush, but it is really neat to see that they ended up doing this, so this is an option. Granted, I doubt they would have this for Banjo, and I'm not sure why they did this other than maybe for a better structural integrity, since she does have a lot of smaller pieces. The details on the plush, first off, let's go with the eyes. So, interestingly enough, the whites of the eyes are actually a soft fabric, and it's small enough to where I would have assumed it would have been embroidered, considering everything else inside of the eye is embroidered, including the eyelashes right there, which are very small. Past that, we have the beak, which has a little bit of a Toucan Sam tip of it, where it's a little bit orange, and the rest of it is yellow. This is a fairly soft fabric, though it is fairly stiff. Almost like, this is going to sound like a really weird comparison, but kind of like a cornfield, just not that same, obviously not the same texture, just kind of the stiffness, kind of the shape of it a little bit. On the bottom of the beak, you do have the inside of the mouth, which is the tongue, and you also have a slightly softer fabric with the pink and the red in there. On top of Kazooie, you have this little tuft of hair, which in the game, this is a lot fluffier, though I do actually appreciate that they did this, because on a figure, I keep saying figure, on a plush this small, it probably could get messed up a lot easier, and it's just a nicer look for this. This is just a very thin piece of felt that has two different sides to it and some embroidery in the middle to give it some more texture, but it does look pretty nice, and the gradient is really good on it. From there, we have the wings. These are fairly feeble, and Again, there is good reason for this. There isn't any stuffing in this, but that does make sense because Kazooie's feathers are very light and very thin. These also have a gradient texture to them, and they are really good. The gradient probably could have been a little bit higher, though I don't know these characters well enough to know if that would necessarily be accurate. The stomach itself also has a gradient, and interestingly enough, the back doesn't. But the tail does have a slight one, and the tail is relatively small. All in all, the fabrics on this feel pretty good, even if they do feel a little bit frail. And on the legs, we do have this very thin, very flimsy looking, and kind of awkward area for the legs, which, I mean, sure, that would abruptly end off, but I feel like that would have been better if they didn't put those there, or if they put something that was a little bit stronger, because it looks a bit awkward, and it also just looks like it would damage very easily. The legs themselves are very stiff, and it feels like just actually pressing on bone, which I don't like that. Plus, the shape also has that feeling, so I guess they did accurately portray a bird leg. And then the bottom doesn't really have much stuffing, but it has like a tiny pinch of stuffing, mostly in the middle toe, not much in the left or the right. Those are more so the rotted type of feeling as well. So that's Kazooie, and now we can look at Banjo. He's got this little cute tuft of hair, which does make you question why they gave it to him and not Kazooie, though I guess it makes a little more sense because he does have that little tuft of hair as well. Banjo himself has the same consistency with the eye, having the fluffy white of the inside, with the blue, the black, and the white in there being embroidered. If we look at the ears as well, his little Teddy Graham ears are so cute. We have the double-sided felt, where the inside, I actually figured that the inside of the ear would be soft, but actually that's all embroidered. So kind of an interesting thing that the eyes are not, but the inside of the ear is embroidered. You do also have Banjo having these tiny little bear freckles, and those of course are embroidered. And you have his very boopable nose, which is very stiff but surprisingly soft. I'm very surprised that out of all of these plush that his nose is soft. That's weird. That's very weird. And then his smile is embroidered on. It's a nice big smile. And honestly, he just looks like he wants to give you a hug. It's so adorable. So the muzzle itself is relatively soft as well. Considering he's a bear, he definitely is more of a teddy bear, it seems. The brown part is also a very soft fabric and feels really nice. From there, we have the necklace, and this is pretty decent, though it's fairly fragile looking. You have the rope for the lace, and it does feel a little bit like a chain, though in the game it is more so rope. And you do also have the little shark tooth that he wears. That is a very rough, flat felt with a little bit of embroidery at the side. It looks pretty good, but again, I am very concerned about that little bit. You have the little stomach circle right there, which is surprisingly as soft as the muzzle. And then you also have the little arms. I'm not gonna lie, I just did the Donkey Kong plush, and the contrast between Banjo and DK is just really funny to me. Because he's like this soft little teddy bear, and DK was just like so swollen and stiff. But yeah, he's kind of in a perpetual T-pose, which is even better. And then going on to the hands, one interesting thing that they didn't have to add, but nice that they did because of the games, they have these tiny little claws that are embroidered on the paws, and that's just really nice. You do also have some embroidered stitching for the fingers, and on the other side, you can see the little knots in there. Oh my god, the palm of his hand is also really soft. No wonder why Kazooie's the one who attacks. This guy's just a sweetheart, dude. I mean, I guess to be fair, he's just trying to save his sister, and I guess that gives you a pretty good reason and idea why Kazooie's there. He's the movement, so... Actually, no, she's still the movement. He's the motive. He's the adorable little motive. That's all. From there we have the backpack, which this is something that we should actually talk about here. One of the cool things about Banjo and Kazooie is that they are a companion character. And Kazooie normally goes in the backpack. Well, the awesome part is that they designed this in such a way where Kazooie can actually go inside of the backpack, and that is so freaking cool, dude. Because a lot of creators would have just ended up having this being to where they would either just be one plush or you couldn't do this. So the fact that they come separate and you can put her in the backpack, that's really awesome. So the backpack itself has more of a denim feeling. It's a little bit rougher, and it does have a bit of a dusty powder feel to it. And the straps over here are embroidered on with the Velcro here. Underneath that is the Rare logo. I would have assumed that would have actually been embroidered, and it looks like the sides are embroidered on, but this part is vinyl? Honestly, the consistency of this plush is really confusing to me because there's a lot of things that I just would assume, based on how other plush do it, that's how they would do it. But I guess to be fair, this is Banjo-Kazooie, and they kind of are all about doing their own thing. Yeah, but the backpack with Kazooie in it looks so great, and having that be stuffed just looks so much better. You do also have the straps, which I believe, unless this is sewn on, which it is very lightly sewn onto the shoulders, there's not a lot of attachment to this plush with the bag, and that's very concerning to me. It's also concerning knowing if I had this as a childhood plush, if this had existed, that, yeah, this backpack would not be attached to this. Like, at all. I'm sorry to say, but considering how a lot of the other plush, like Big the Cat and Mario ended up faring, yeah, that wouldn't have lasted. Going on with the pants, we have the silver buckle, which is just a one felt, very shiny, shimmery. If you've seen the Big the Cat Toy Network plush, it's pretty much the same as that. And interestingly enough, it looks like the black of the belt and the yellow is one pattern of fabric. This is more of a actual pants feeling. It feels like basketball shorts, which is wild that they included this. And of course, on the back, you do also have these details with a few lines being in the back for the loops, though there's only 2 of them. And then the legs themselves, also not too much going on, where you do have the little pants going there with the little end of the stitching, and then the legs being the same as the arms, as well as the feet paws being the same as the hand paws. He only has 3 toes, so he only has 3 claws on his feet, whereas his hands have 4 fingers, so that has 4 claws. So very interesting. So in total, he has 14 nails. Kind of unexpected. All in all, I think this is a really well-designed plush. There are a few things that do have me confused, though I'm very happy about this. And I'm sure if I had played the game, or if I was more of a super fan other than playing in Smash, and just from the Let's Plays I've seen, I would be way more ecstatic about this plush. That being said, though, the fact this plush even exists is really freaking cool and really amazing. I definitely cannot wait to play Banjo-Kazooie in the future because it's such a great looking game, it's such an iconic game, and these characters are ones that deserve to be brought back. They deserve to have a remake of their first game, and they deserve to have a new outing. So hopefully one day Microsoft will end up having Rare, or Rare will end up saying, we want to make Banjo-Kazooie again. Fingers crossed, and we just gotta hope that they'll recapture some of that magic. Or make some new magic with Banjo-Kazooie. Anyway though guys, that's gonna be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to talon trot that like button, hit subscribe, or Kazooie will come after you, and share this out with everybody you know and love. Brother, mother, sister, father, your sister Judy. Apparently a different sister than your other sister. Your iguana, and keep this away from Grunty, because she might steal the beauty of this video. And it might be depressing. Anyway though guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below what you guys thought of the video, the plush, and Banjo-Kazooie in and of themselves. And when did you guys first find out about these characters? Alright guys, thanks for watching, and see you next time. Keep Joe safe. There's only so many cute things I can do, and I need to try to get a good cute thumbnail of these guys. While they're also like slightly to the side so you can see both of them. It's a pretty good one of Banjo though. So you know what? I think I'm gonna take it. Alright guys. See you next time. Bye.